What up, Superbots? So I decided to try and get recording of some more kind of endgame stage stuff. So this is what we've got. You can see we've got Time's Up, Angry Rovers, Goliaths, Digging Squad, which is basically more Goliaths, Bunny Shields, which is head bonking shields, and Safety Goggles, so enemies have a chance to be faster and have more health, and can't be crit. And then the glitches, we've got less power cells, traps, repair bot cost cells, leak tank, which means our jetpack has less fuel, but that doesn't really matter. Take more damage in the air, restricted choices, so we get less in chests. We are hacked, stunned, and frozen for longer, which is a nightmare. Increased damage from explosions, reduced damage from Captain McSlice, which is a downside because that's my main weapon that I was going to be using, so it's a bit of annoying. Grapple hook cooldown increase, which is annoying, and endless workout. So for those of you who don't know or haven't got far enough, when you stop getting normal perks and normal upgrades at level 25, you start getting an option of healing. You get an option of a power cell or more damage for 90 seconds. But at stage 17 and on, you stop getting new glitches and singularities, and instead you get this endless workout, which is just increasing how much damage the enemies do every rotation. So we're at stage 40. As you can see, our level weapon is 85. We did gamble, we didn't get lucky enough to get any powder, so we can't take our weapon to Fantastic, which is a real downside for Superbot. Like, if you're doing a gun build, you kind of really need a Fantastic weapon. So that's really going to hamper your Superbot playthroughs. Another thing is Superbot's passive for eating Fantastic weapons. That will give you a new upgrade choice, but only if you've got a level up stored. So if it's a brand new level up, then it will just give you these boosters instead of an upgrade. But if you have a booster stored and then you eat a Fantastic weapon, sometimes that will give you an upgrade. Same with the book item. But anyway, that's enough jabbering. Let's see how Infinite Stealth does at stage 40. I'm probably going to do about half an hour run here, so you'll probably see stages 40 to 43 and just see what to expect. So even though our damage is reduced by 20%, McSlice still is our main source of damage, mainly because of the interaction with McSlice and close combat. It just gives better cooldown than killing things with guns do for whatever reason. So you actually manage to get your stealth repeatedly. I did drop a weapon back there, but I don't need healing particularly, and I'm not that stealth cell, so you will see that I'm not going to pick up every weapon. Because of the damage reduction that we've got, the time is actually fairly strict with Superbot. It's quite difficult to get S time. I do suspect that it's just because of the minus 20% damage for McSlice. If we didn't pick that up, then we'll probably be okay. But you don't really get a choice on singularities and glitches, they just happen. If it messes your build up, good luck. I've had a couple of runs where it's messed my build up so much that it's just GG. It's not really a skill level that you can be at to just get around not being able to do your main source of damage, unfortunately. As you can see, we've got a fair few Goliaths sticking around. Been lucky so far as not to have too many of these shielded mobs because they're a bit of a pain, but because we're infinitely invisible, it doesn't matter too much. The shields are a nightmare if you don't have some kind of shield or invisibility mechanic on the bot that you're playing. Get the rollers. That's just chaos. Oh, and these rollers triggered at some point. I'll see if I can point out the new Goliaths as well, the biggies. They're interesting. They shoot a lot of lasers and try to cut down your movement quite a bit, which is cool. As you can see, it takes us a while to kill Goliaths. They do have a lot of health. Take one of the power-ups just to get more damage to get through these a little bit sooner. I would tend to have the power-ups just sitting there for when you need them. The healing ones have saved me once in a couple of runs. Power cells ones has come in handy because there's like a fantastic item or something in the shop and I just need a few power cells. And the damage ones are the main ones that you're probably going to want to use. As you can see, our gun does do damage, it can kill things, just not quite as quickly or as effectively. I'm not going to bother on that, just going to kill these, get the XP and leave. Don't need to upgrade, don't need anything here. Okay, Diggernauts is funny, especially with this build, because all you need to do is get on this guy's head, and he basically sits at skybox, so you get really quick head bonks, and this is the whole fight. It'd be a little bit harder if I didn't have something distracting him, but yeah. Decoys. You'll see there it said that I've got 16 S ranks. That's because when you load into a run, obviously this run's been going on for almost 3 hours, so I haven't played non-stop for 3 hours. Yeah, for some reason at the moment when you've got a run that's been going on a while and you load in, it doesn't save how many S ranks you've got correctly in that info. I don't know if it will show correctly at the end of the run. We'll have to see when this run finally fails. Which is unfortunate, but there you go. Its saving system is a new system, so can't expect it to be flawless. Those rollers have so much health, it's so lucky with this build that you can just kind of kill them with rail mechanics. We have run explosive on our weapon. That's purely and solely so we've got a bit more mobility, because one thing Super lacks, because he can't have flare gun in his offhand, is mobility. You don't want to just be using your ult fire for mobility all the time. So we do have explosive rolling in the back. We also have banana and stuff, which obviously makes explosive damage. Oh, jump too high. Now, I will be honest, even though it's not showing it, I have done one round of this that got A. The reason for that was there's a boss fight which consists of Cater Coaster and Beetle Royale. And this build just really struggles to stay on top of them because of the move options that they have, basically. And that was around the time when I first got the damage reduction on the slice, so I was doing a lot less damage than I expected. So, not a pure S run, but I'm more going for distance than pure S's. I'll get S where I can, but I'm not going to reset just because I missed one. I don't know if the damage from the power-ups stacks with itself, so if you take the level up multiple times in a row, I don't actually know, I haven't tested if that will stack up to 40% damage for 90 seconds. But my main reason for doing hounding at the moment is just so I can consistently try and have it up when I need it, and just sitting on boosters rather than just using them for the sake of using them. We don't want to take the aftershock. We're not doing any shock damage. It's not worth just getting rid of it from the. Its negatives aren't worth getting rid of it just for the sake of not seeing it anymore, which we've done with some items. Just getting it off the new table. But being stunned by it just wouldn't be worth it. We don't need to kill all of these, we've got us already, but this is more XP for more boosts. So as you can see, the S just isn't going up, really. And it's not like I've been getting lower than B ranks or anything like that on the other stages, because they would all show, or should also show there. So it's just, yeah, it's not showing properly. Again, I don't really like Radish, and I don't really like Ocarina would be damage loss, so I'm not taking that. Grab power up with that. Oh, that was a 10k hit from my ult. Not bad. Getting there. The only reason I'm going for about 30 minutes is I would show you more, but I do still have the kids to it, so I can't afford to keep them quiet for too long. You'll probably hear them in the background. But it is what it is, being a parent. I'm going to grab another power up. Make sure I've got this room. Blaster is, like, our build doesn't revolve around using McSlice, specifically for damage. Like, the blaster can do damage. It just works better if you're using the blaster due to the mechanics of the cooldown stuff that I've got. And it tends to be better just to stay in stealth for safety reasons, because I am basically just choosing this difficulty more than skilling this difficulty. This is a very, very easy build that you'll probably be able to run through to any difficulty stage. You probably don't even need TV remote, which I currently have. I just like to run TV remote, it just makes more cooldowns more interesting. But you could probably get away with not having it, and it'd be a bit safer. Especially when it's got, normally I don't mind how long hack is, and even less so if you've got plant pot. But obviously you've got the hack that means it lasts for so long, but it is a little bit awkward having it. But probably something to think about next time I do a run, taking into account that I could get that glitch before taking remote in the future. Because this build's so safe, it doesn't really matter if you get hacked for a couple of seconds, but getting hacked for longer than that isn't necessarily dangerous, it's just slows you down. luckily we managed to keep up with time. I wasn't really noticing that this was a boss room. I normally like to skip some XP going into boss rooms just to make sure that we're getting there. I'm going to take Yo-Yo just to get it out of the pool. We're going to grab a power up here again. This is another easy one, especially because clone, but even without clone you can do most of this fight just by jumping on Judge's head. That's the only attack that you can't really jump on his head. All the other attacks, even if he's looking at you, because the way that he aims at you, you're not going to get hit. And the other guy doesn't really do any attacks that's going to shoot up at you in the sky. They're mostly ground based. So yeah, it's a fairly, that's probably the easiest boss, even if you didn't have clones to distract him. Going to take Carnival Mask, which I thought I already had. Let you have multiple of the same item now? I'm sure I picked that up before. Interesting. Yeah, so you can tell with this build, like every room's going to be pretty much the same. You're only going to take damage if you're standing in line with your clones or your Alfred. Boosters to keep up with damage, or if you didn't get your build nerfed by RNG, then it'd be just flat buff. So if you don't like the melee options, you can do this build with Blaster as well. I'd probably put like Phase Boom on it instead of the Robo Feud that I do have. But I wouldn't really roll a gun Superbot unless you've got powder, because a fantastic blaster is just so important to get on the gunbot. You're missing out on so much damage if you don't have like burn, warm up, buckshot, explosive damage options. So that's burn from perk, warm up, buckshot, explosive on the weapon, and then take Vapor Boom. And then the blaster will be doing huge amounts of damage. Everything else is just extra. Especially since I've got CD, so that would be pulling its own weight there for the gun build. It's not doing bad on this build, considering. And because you get so many items, it's fairly easy to make most energy weapons like fairly efficient. The CD is probably going to end up being fairly big pickups. Beach Ball is another one that's impressive. One takeaway from this that I would say is taking the healing cell options to get more healing cell returns, more healing from them, is huge, because you get so many healing cells to so many enemies. You just heal up so quickly. And armor, it feels like it's the return you get on armor based on your normal run is so high. Everything deals so much damage if you don't have armor. It feels like you're doing a normal run if you have armor. But hitting for 500 damage, and that's almost half of that. with my armor. So it would be 1000 damage. Which is pretty crazy considering I have 3000 health. So I can take like 6 shots instead of 3. It's kind of good. And just because there's so many enemies and so many effects in play, it's a lot harder not taking damage than it used to be. So I would actually rate defensive options a lot higher than this. Not necessary, you don't have to run it like that, but you will find it a lot easier. And you can still keep up in damage while having defensive options. Because now you've got more perks to do so. So rather than using that 5th perk for more damage, it might actually be conducive for that 6th slot, that's 5th slot, not 6th, to actually be used for survivability. One problem with having almost 50% movement speed is trying to land on the heads of shielded mobs is a pain in the ass because you're going so fast. But that's mainly my skill issue. And you see that the 10% damage increases from when I am getting hit. It's barely noticeable, to be honest. I feel like my health is scaling at a similar rate as their damage, so it just doesn't really matter too much. How many power-ups I'm sat on right now. And we do have bosses every 2 stages, so we'll have a boss here and see what we get. There's only one boss that really gives this any kind of challenge. As I said before, that's the Cater Coaster brutal fight. I do still hope to get an Elementalist ability run during late game, so it'll be interesting to see, or it'll be funny to see just like how much it scales. So I don't know if you guys know this, but your abilities scaling with your level up scales better than guns. And given how we're getting multiple levels, or just level up so quickly, I mean, our gun is on level 94, we're 4 levels higher than our gun, and weapons already scale, abilities already scale higher than weapons do. So if you get lucky enough not to have, if you get lucky enough not to get any glitches or singularities that are going to decrease your ability cooldown or your ability damage, then you'll be in the minute, because you'll be just scaling so much better than any weapon can. And that's not to say that the weapons are going to be bad, obviously, like, range is still going to completely dominate the weapon build in this, because he's just going to ricochet through a whole room and kill everything in one. But he could do that with javelins as well. that kid wanted to tell me about new Paddington film. Right, this is a super easy fight. You could probably do most of these tricks without clones as well. The only thing I would look out for is Jim's machine gun, but you can literally just bounce here around the arena, unless you need to hit his crit spot. One thing I haven't touched on is I think mobbing builds are probably going to be stronger than boss killing builds in the meta, purely because there are so many more mobs per level now. Boss killing individual targets over and over again is going to be a lot riskier than it has been previously, and on top of that, because there are 2 bosses in boss arenas now, hitting both of them at the same time with mobbing builds is just going to be giving you, probably making up for the damage difference that you would normally lose from running a mobbing build instead of a bossing build. So that's something that'll be interesting to see how that progresses. Because I've definitely had some runs which didn't feel great because it was mostly single target damage. Don't get me wrong, the bosses are quite hard early in a run. The first and second boss are probably going to be the hardest boss fights you have, just because, yeah, they scale, but the first boss isn't going to have just a single boss. You're still fighting 2, and if your build hasn't got enough damage in it yet, you're going to struggle. One of my Elementalist attempts as ability builds in true Elementalist style didn't have any damage buffs by the time they got to the first boss. Given that's only 2 stages, it's not that surprising. That is 2 perks in. And I just couldn't keep up with the Mosquito. Mosquito summoned too many things to be able to actually survive and do anything about. So I actually legitimately lost to a stage 2 boss fight because I just didn't plan it. One thing I will say is I'm probably not as excited for Endless as other people were. A little bit jaded against the idea. It just feels a little bit less honest. I feel like a lot more strength is going to come from builds and items, and cheese builds are just going to rock on how far they can get. And it takes away some of the skill expression, in my opinion. Even though I'm a good player, I'd be struggling with a less cheesy build right now. Even if it was one that was potentially better and did more damage, just because of the survivability of this build. I don't have to play the game anymore, really. Or I don't need to play it how it's intended. Which this build did do a similar thing in standard playthrough, but there's just different power spikes that would give you more skill expression in a standard run, and you're less likely to get the items that you want in a standard run to perfect the build. But if you play for long enough in Endless, you're always going to get the item you want, especially if you're whittling away at the item pool, assuming that the item pool isn't endless as well. Because I do feel like I've picked up the mask multiple times, but I haven't picked up all items multiple times. I did see 2 eggs at one stage, but I assumed that was a bug. So we'll see. If we see another poppy, we'll know for sure. Yeah, planning out your build is going to be a big difference now as well, because just knowing that there's 25% crit chance reduction in glitches means that auto crit builds, unless you're reaching 100%, are going to be a lot weaker. Anything that sits on like 60% auto crit, so engineer, is going to really struggle to do anything with crits properly. And there's not really a way to make up for it. So if you end up trying to build for auto crits and getting hit with a decreased crit chance, your build's just ruined. And then if you're not building auto crit chance and you get a enemies have a patch on so you can't crit them anymore, then that screws up your non-auto crit builds. So it's, I guess you could say it's an interesting balance. I am not a big fan of RNG just saying no to your build. I understand not wanting to give people the option, because then they would always just take the lesser of two evils. But I feel like if you feel like there's a lesser of two evils, more often than not, then maybe it's that you've not balanced your glitches and singularities correctly. Because there should always be instances where one option would be preference, depending on what build or run you're doing, over another option. If there's something that just doesn't really matter at any point for a player to take, then yeah, you've probably not balanced your singularities and your glitches as well as you could have. But that's dependent on style and choice. So I understand why we haven't got that system, but I know myself and a lot of others probably prefer being able to at least appear. It does feel really bad having RNG just saying no to a build, and like more saying no in a way of giving you everything for your build and now we're just going to stop the build from working, rather than just RNG not giving you what you need for the build. I've had multiple elemental runs just kind of fail, because even though I've got all the CDR in the world, you now have stacked my ability having more cooldown against me, so now I can't do my primary damage deal like ever. And because it's an elementalist, if you built for ability damage and if you built an ability build, you're not really doing any gun damage. That's just how it works. I could almost see Javelin Ranger having a bit of that issue if it wasn't for the fact that you can pick the javelins back up. But yeah, Elementalist and Commando probably are the two that are going to get hit the hardest with trying to do ability runs and then just getting screwed by RNG, and then another time trying to do that run and just not having that RNG. It's a style choice. I know people are going to say, yeah, it's meant so that you can play around about RNG, which is, that's fine. If you got your singularities and your glitches before you finish your build and you were able to change your build or build around the glitches a bit more, that'd be fine. But you finish your build by what, stage 9? I'm not exactly sure, but it's like stage 7 or 9, if I'm not mistaken. And then having like, in fact no, it is stage, but like you have a good 5 or 6 singularities and glitches that will appear after you've leveled up and got your build going. So then you don't really have a choice to pick around what you're being hit with and what negatives you're getting. So I don't know, we'll see how it progresses. I don't think it's bad per se. I don't think they've done a bad job. I think they've done a fairly good job. It's just not stylized in a way that I think I'm going to get on with. But the game's not made for me. I've just noticed on the right it says I've got 2 toasters, so it does look like there are some items which you can get multiple of, which is pretty hype. Like If 2 toasters are actually kicking in, that's a lot of damage. Doesn't help my build, because I guess my blaster's not doing burn actually. But anyway, this is going to be the last boss I do, because I've gone 5 minutes over where I intended to go. So we'll do this boss, and then I'll drop the recording, and I will see you all in the Discord to see how well you are faring at the game. If you're enjoying Endless. Drop a message to see, let me know where you think this build's going to fail. I was hitting 16, 17 phase there, so I do think the power up damage does scale, by the way. Just from that. There we go. Popping double boosters to kill bosses nice and quick. So, thank you very much for watching. I've been Jinx Murphy. You've been a pleasure to record for. Thank you very much, and peace out.